What is up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel, and today's video is very similar to the OJ case. It is a well-known case in the true crime community because I think everybody knows this story. So we're just gonna get right into it. On August 20th of 1989, Lyle Menendez called 911 to report that someone had killed his parents.
Were they shot? Yes. They were shot? Yes.
This got the police's attention, and they immediately rushed to the Menendez family home. So, a little background on Lyle. Lyle was born Joseph Lyle Menendez, but he went by his middle name most notably. He was born on January 10th of 1968 to Jose and Kitty Menendez. Soon after Lyle was born, the family moved from, I believe, Illinois to a small little New Jersey town, and just a couple years after Lyle's birth, his younger brother, Eric, was born. Eric Galen Menendez, and he was born on November 27th of 1970. He was born in Blackwood, New Jersey, to Jose and Kitty Menendez. So Eric grew up a little bit shy, he was a little bit quiet, and he was in his big brother's shadow. So about 16 years into Eric's life, the whole family moved from New Jersey to California. They moved to Southern California in 1986. Eric fell in with the wrong crowd at this time when they moved to California, and he was basically arrested once or twice for burglary in 1988. So Eric was also really interested in screenwriting. This comes back into play later in the story. Like I just said, on August 20th, Lyle called the Beverly Hills Police Department to report that somebody had killed his and Eric's parents, and police rushed to the family home, and when the police arrived, they found Jose Menendez bleeding out, sitting on the family's white couch in the den. So when they found him, he was slumped over, and his head was to one side. The police said that his face was disfigured from the gunshot wound to the side of his head. Jose's wife, Mary, who went by Kitty, was curled into the fetal position on the floor near her husband's feet. She had taken a shotgun wound to the face, along with multiple shotgun wounds to the knee. I don't know why the knee is such a specific part. I think we'd probably have to ask the Menendez brothers. So, apparently, how the story went was that their sons went out and watched a movie that night, and they came home and found their parents murdered in the den. This story falls apart pretty quickly after they tell it. So, a little background on who Jose and Kitty were. Jose had fled to Cuba, so he was an immigrant who fled to America, and he met Kitty and they married in 1963. So Kitty was a school teacher for a lot of her life, and then she quit her job to be a stay-at-home mom. Jose was a very successful businessman. He worked a lot with celebrities and whatnot. He was also the general manager of Hertz. Then he would later become an executive in a Hollywood film company. They moved to Beverly Hills, like I said. They moved in 1986 to Beverly Hills, and they moved into a mansion that was previously owned by Elton John. That would be really cool. So, for people who knew the Menendez family, they will tell you that Jose had a need to succeed. He was very successful. He was very like, I need to do this and do that and whatnot. And this kind of caused a lot of stress on his boys. Sorry for that. I had to change the lighting. Hopefully I'm a little bit lighter now. If not, it's fine. But Jose basically pushed his success and his need to succeed on his boys, and this basically looted from Jose and his sons, especially during their young years and even to high school and sports. So both boys played tennis, they both played soccer, and they both played pool, or swam. I don't know why I said they both played pool. So they played tennis, they played soccer, and they swam. And he pushed his boys to be the best they could possibly be. He pushed them to be absolute best. And he was very extreme when he did this. He was very, like, you didn't succeed and all that. The documentary I watched that says it's Eric Tells All. Basically, they had family members in the video, in the documentary, that were like, he was very strict on his boys, he was very tough on them, and I couldn't imagine that. But the family seemed perfect from the outside view. They were well known in Hollywood. They had 2 very handsome sons, and at the time of the murders, Lyle was attending university, and Eric was getting ready to attend university. He had just graduated high school. Lyle was attending Princeton, and Eric was getting ready to attend UCLA. So they both of their sons were attending these very prestigious schools, and whatnot. But like I said, on August 20th, that kind of just fell apart. So when the investigation first started into the murders of Jose and Kitty, they believed that it was a mob hit, considering Jose's business dealings. Apparently, Jose had dealings with the mob, which, I mean, would make sense if that's who they're assuming these hits is from. But very quickly, the investigation went from, we believe it's a mob hit, to, oh, their sons did it. And let me tell you, they were very quiet about this whole thing. They did not tell the media anything other than it was a mob hit. So for a long time, the media just assumed it was a mob hit. They were very quiet when they started to assume that it was Eric and Lyle Menendez, the sons. Eric and Lyle actually had both, just days after their parents' death, went to the bank and pulled out their parents' will. Like, they did not care. And right after they pulled out their parents' will, they spent a lot of that money. Buying Rolexes, buying new cars, tennis lessons. They spent it all. And I mean all. Lavish vacations. They basically were blowing this money as quickly as they could because they now had the money to do whatever and do whatever they wanted and whenever they wanted. During the investigation, both of the boys had willingly answered the police's questions, though when they first showed up to the crime scene, Lyle was the only one that answered the questions at first because Eric was hysterical. I mean, like, bawling his eyes out. He was in the 911 call. I think you can hear Eric in the background going, oh my god, oh my god. Their story seemed believable when they told police. They said they went out to see a movie. When they came back, it must have been about 2 hours. It was about a 2 hour time gap. They went and saw a movie. Parents were murdered in that time zone. And when they came back, their parents were murdered and they could still smell gun smoke in the air. So like I said, the boys went on a spending spree, and they inherited like millions of dollars. Like, they inherited all this money and they spent it, did whatever they could. They were still answering police questions. So police were like, okay, their story seemed believable, but now they're pulling their parents' will out of the bank and they're spending all of it, and they're spending it quickly. So police took another look at the brothers' stories of how they found their parents. Like I said, the brothers both said that there was still gun smoke in the air. And as I think a lot of us would be, if you know how a gun works, gun smoke is only there after the gun has been shot. Investigators thought this was so weird because they were like, gun smoke wouldn't be there if it was like 5-10 minutes after the murders. Like, it would have dissipated pretty quickly. It'd have been gone really quick. So that it wouldn't have been there when the brothers found their parents. But investigators then received an unusual call from a woman named Judalyn Smith, who had been having an affair with Eric's psychologist, Jerome Oziel. She claimed to have overheard Eric confess to killing his parents. So like I said, when they were doing all the spending, all the money, they were just spending all the money, Eric decided to spend some of this money on a psychologist. Eric apparently needed a psychologist at the time. Nobody knew why. They didn't know why he needed a psychologist. But as we find out later in the trial and stuff like that, I kind of see why he would need a psychologist. But she claimed to have overheard Eric confess to killing his parents. She even heard, like, the whole detailed how he murdered his mom and dad. And she said that his psychologist later taped Eric's confession when he pulled Lyle in for a psychologist appointment with him, and they gave a detailed description of the murders. So the investigators wanted to seize the tapes, but they were not able. They seized them. They wanted to seize them. They seized them, but were not able to listen to them because of doctor-patient privileges. So this basically, it was just, they couldn't listen to it, but they had somebody tell them, this is what it says on here, whatnot. That was enough to arrest Eric and Lyle Menendez. So on around May 8th of 1990, almost a year after the parents' murders, Eric was arrested, and then a couple days later, Lyle was arrested. They were arrested very quickly after each other, and they were in 2 different places as well. So I believe Eric was the one that was further away. It might have been, actually no, I think Lyle was back at Princeton or something near Princeton, and Lyle was still around California. But they were arrested for murdering their mother and father. After they arrested the brothers, they were searching for more evidence against the brothers. They were like, we know that you murdered your parents, like, we just need the evidence to show that you did it. So they found out that just 2 days before the murder, Eric and Lyle had purchased 2 shotguns with a stolen ID that Lyle had stole from a classmate at Princeton. That's not a very good case. You should have probably done a little bit better than that, but you didn't. So the prosecution built a very strong case against the brothers, and the defense was like, and they flipped the case. How, you may ask, did they flip this case? They basically said that the Eric and Lyle murdered their parents because of years of physical and sexual abuse by Jose. And this also helped them. They relied on the imperfect self-defense law. This basically argues that you can kill somebody out of self-defense if there has been abuse or anything like that. Which, like I just said, that law allowed them to argue that the brothers had an unreasonable belief that their life was in danger. So, like I said earlier, Eric went to see a psychologist after killing his parents, mostly because, I'm assuming because of the physical and sexual abuse he suffered from a very young age, all the way until he was 18 years old when they murdered his parents. Both brothers testified in court about the sexual and physical abuse. Lyle, and I will say that, a little trigger warning now, I do talk a little bit about how Lyle and Eric describe it. I do use their words how they described it. I think that it is something that needs to be shared. A lot of people go through it. And these brothers definitely believed that their life was in danger if they had told somebody about what Jose did to them. So Lyle claimed that his father would abuse him with various objects. I am assuming that that was not physical abuse. I am assuming that that was sexual abuse. As you can tell, this is something that I don't like talking about. It is a very... I can't believe people would do this to their children. So yeah. But Lyle also claimed that this happened throughout his childhood. So neighbors and coaches, family members and friends all took the stand and testified. And they all said Jose was a demanding and abusive father. He was very strict. Like, if you were at his house, this is one rule. This is the one rule that he was very strict about. If you were in his house, you were not allowed to go down the hallway if he was in that room with his sons behind closed doors. You can basically take what you want from that. Basically, that is like, I'm in this room sexually assaulting my children. You cannot come in here. Like, don't even come near this door. So, an older cousin of the boys, Diane Vandermolen, actually testified and said that when Lyle was 8, he confided in her that his father would continuously touch his genitals. So, as most people would, considering she was older than Lyle, she was like, oh my god, I need to tell somebody, and she told Lyle's mother, Kitty. She assumed that Kitty did something about this because Lyle never spoke to her about it again. Like, she assumed that Kitty had done something about it and all that. And Diane even said this about Eric and Lyle: I know that they would never ever have done what they did unless they felt that they had no choice, that it was either them or their parents. I believe that very strongly. That is one family member's testimony, and I believe a brother of Kitty's believed or testified that that would never happen. Kitty wouldn't have let Jose do that. But that is most likely because he still lived in Illinois, the small town, so he didn't see him as much. But, like I said, the boys both testified about this in court, and that's really what made the defense's case. Lyle testified and said that he suffered the sexual abuse from the ages of 6 to 8. So, in court, and like I said, this is a trigger warning, in court, Lyle said we would be in the bathroom, and he would put me on my knees and have oral sex with him. He then proceeded to say he raped me. And Lyle said that the sexual abuse stopped when he was 8, and he never realized that the focus of sexual abuse had changed to his younger brother Eric until years later when Eric told Lyle. So Eric also took the stand to tell of his abuse. He also said this. Again, trigger warning. He would have me give him oral sex and would stick the needles or tacks into my thighs as he was doing this. Eric also added that if he refused, his father would come back with a knife and threaten him. Lyle also testified that a day before the murders, he confronted his father about the abuse. That Jose had made them endure, and his father kind of freaked out on him a little bit, was like, you won't tell anybody, blah, blah, blah. And this made Lyle afraid that his father was going to kill him to keep that secret. I don't know if Lyle believed that he would also kill Eric, so Eric didn't tell the secret. I do not know. And the brothers used their mental state as a defense, and this allowed the tapes to be played in court. This allowed the tapes of Eric and his psychologist appointments to be played in court. So prosecutors questioned the sexual abuse claims. They said that the brothers stood to inherit millions if their parents died, like I mentioned earlier. So that was why they murdered them. After an intense deliberation, the judge announced that the jury was hopelessly deadlocked. So they couldn't decide whether or not the brothers did murder their parents or didn't murder their parents. So that was in 1993, I believe. So the case will be retried 2 years later in 1995, and it wasn't televised this time, probably because they were focusing a lot more on the O.J. Simpson case. So it wasn't televised this time, and Lyle also didn't take the stand during this trial after letters had surfaced that suggested Lyle had told people to lie for the defense. The judge also reduced the amount of testimony about the alleged physical and sexual abuse, and also said that the jurors could not consider the imperfect self-defense law after a state Supreme Court ruling in another case. So everything was redone. They talked about the case again. They talked about some abuse, some of the sexual and physical abuse. They talked about, I think Eric actually testified a little bit more in this case. And this trial ended with the jury finding the brothers guilty on all counts, and they were sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. So, for almost 31 years, the brothers were placed in 2 different prisons, and they actually never saw each other. I believe they did talk to each other on the phone, but they never saw each other. And in 2017, the brothers were actually placed in the same prison after almost 30 years of being apart. They are now in the same cell block, in the same prison, and they are both happily married men. Lyle married a woman in 1996. Her name was Anna Erickson, and they actually divorced in 2001. And while Lyle was married to Anna, Eric married in 1999 to Tammy. I'll put pictures of them because when I was watching the documentary Eric Tells All, she talked very highly of her husband, and they seemed very unloved. And they even have a daughter. It is not Eric's, it is his stepdaughter. So, yes. Lyle then remarried in 2003. I think it's 2004 that he remarries. It might be 2003. 03 or 04. Lyle remarried to Rebecca Sneed, and they have been married ever since. Neither one of the boys have kids of their own, and they have done numerous appeals. They have been denied these appeals, and it seemed like people kind of forgot their case until recently on TikTok. If you don't know what TikTok is, you're missing out. It's very similar to Vine, but longer videos. You can post whatever you want on there, and a lot of people are posting about the brothers. So if you look up the Menendez Brothers in the search bar on TikTok, you will see over hundreds of videos with over millions of views, and basically a lot of the videos are just girls that are younger than me fawning over how hot Eric is and how good looking Eric is, because they believe that Eric is the better looking of the 2 brothers, especially back in the 90s. But the more you scroll down, the more you will see people sympathizing for the brothers. You will find videos of sad music with a video of the brothers testifying in court. I actually have one in my favorites right now of one of their cousins from the documentary talking about how he believes the brothers. This is editing, Sarah. This is like 3 months after I filmed this video. I thought I would give a little disclaimer. I have no idea where that video went of the brother's cousin testifying. It is no longer in my favorites, and if it is so far down in my favorites, I couldn't tell you where it is. Just that I would let you know. And on these videos, the comment sections are filled with outrage by the conviction of the murder charges on the brothers. And I believe they all have their right to say that. I think the brothers probably definitely don't deserve life in prison without the possibility of parole. But yeah, the Menendez Brothers case has kind of come back and made its re-emergence from the depths of the dark because of TikTok. So yeah. This case has been on my mind for about a year now. I watched a documentary on it last year, and I really thought about making the video then. But I didn't, and I kind of regret it now. But I made this video. It's very similar to the OJ case. It's a very publicized one, especially for its time. And yeah. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching, and let me know in the comments if you would like to see more celebrity-ish kind of videos. My OJ one, my Viper Room, the Kardashians, all kind of have to do something with celebrities, and I actually kind of like it. I have another one coming up about John Lennon, about his murder, so yeah. Tell me what you guys think. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.